All right. Very good.
Okay. I'm sure we all feel very elevated, having either stayed up all night or at least done a lot more learning on Shavuos than other Chagim. And the idea of receiving the Torah is a beautiful idea that once a year we sort of reenact the receiving of the Torah. We make ourselves ready. We count 49 days, and on the 50th day we stand in front of Hashem to receive His Torah. It's a beautiful, as are all the Chagim, kind of a reenactment of the original giving of freedom or giving of the Torah, or on Sukkot to be surrounded by the Anunei HaKavod and work on our bitachon. So each Chag has something that it gives, it imparts to us. And the hard part, of course, is to take that into, it's like getting a football, right? If you ever watched a football game, you can get handed the football, but that's not the end of the story. Then you have to run for a touchdown. For those who don't know American football, there's like two ends, and you have to run to get to the final touchdown. Some people don't know that. And it's not so easy because there are people trying to tackle you, and hopefully you have a lot of people on your side trying to form a path, but then you have a lot of people trying to stop you. So it's the same way that even as great as our Kabbalah was, that's like being handed the football. Now we have to run with it. Now we have to try to learn the Torah properly and to score a touchdown for each person a little bit different, but we all have the same goal: to serve Hashem properly, to do our mitzvahs properly, to know as much of the Torah as we possibly can, and b'simcha. So it's a lot to ask, but at least now we have the football, we can run with it. So we have to daven for siyata d'shmaya to continue whatever uplifting moment we felt at the time we received the Torah, some point along the day of Shavuos, and to try to continue that now through the hot summer, right? The summer is always the hardest time to learn. Of course, every day of the year there's always something to complain about. When it's too cold, you complain that it's too cold. When it rains, you complain it rained. Didn't rain, you complain it didn't rain, right? In Israel, we get very hot under the collar when it doesn't rain. So, but the summer has a lot of special things that try to prevent us from scoring our touchdown, as we said. It's hot, it's much easier to stay at home, or it's air conditioned perhaps. And sometimes it means getting on a hot bus or standing outside before the bus comes and waiting for a bus, and sometimes some people who have to wait for a few connections, and we should appreciate how much each person goes through. I certainly appreciate it, and I do want to thank people for making efforts that they make to come, and the Rebbeim, right? It's not always easy for the Rebbeim to come, and everybody has a lot of chores that they often feel need to be done, and some days we feel overwhelmed, and I understand if you can't come because of that, but when you do come, and I know you did have a lot on your plate, I appreciate that as well. But the summer tends to have much more of that than any other time. For some reasons, a lot more to do. There's also vacations, right? A lot of people their families expect them to take them on vacation. Not everybody is willing to wait till the vacation, the real vacation, which is after Tisha B'Av. We officially have 3 weeks of no yeshiva. So whoever can should try to plan their vacation for then. That's traditionally the time. So that way we can have everyone here during the semester, as it were. And the real vacation can be the time for everyone to go with their family when they need to go somewhere. But I know not everyone's able to do that. Not everyone feels, or you have simchas that come up and so forth. But it's a time when things are very difficult. Plus, when it's hot, we get a little bit hot under the collar, as I said. We get more easily into arguments with people. I find a lot more people getting angry with each other, because you feel kind of at your wit's end because of the heat, because of this and that and the other. And also in the Torah, in this week's Parsha, Ba'aloscha, you find it says they left the Har Hashem, and all of a sudden everything starts going wrong. They complain about this, and they start burning up, and then the people die, and then they go this way and that way, the spies and Koirach, all sorts of very difficult things. So we have to make sure that this period of time, which has, like I said, we're trying to make our touchdown, but there's a lot of people trying to tackle us on the way, a lot of things trying to prevent us, that we need siyata d'shmaya to get there. So how do we get the siyata d'shmaya to score our touchdown, to not get bogged down in the normal day-to-day problems, and especially the summer type of things, and things that can flare up, and so on and so forth. So
You have to hit a home run.
you have to hit a home run. That's called a mixed metaphor, but I like it. That's because he's about to go home. That's why he wants to hit the home run. And we think we're already home run. We're already home.
This is home.
This is home. Not Atlanta, sorry. We need you here all the time. So, did your daughter give birth yet?
Not yet.
You extended your ticket?
As of right now, I nothing to do.
That should go well. There, it's a show. Heard you had a simcha or something? Someone said you had a son who's got engaged or something?
My
Grandson.
Bachor's Bachor got engaged.
Svi told me that, I think. His grandson.
My oldest grandson. The first grandson.
So,
We should be a great grandfather.
we have a parsha in front of us. As I said, part of the parsha anyways should help us to be careful not to fall into the problems that can take a person away from the Torah as soon as they left Har Sinai. As we were learning in the Gemara in Sukkah, there's a pasuk in Yechezkel that says, I wanted you to be like an arava that's firmly entrenched on a lot of water, which means you're firmly involved in learning, but you took yourselves and you placed yourselves far away. It's like you left the Har Hashem, you left where you could have been learning, and you went somewhere far away and hoped to survive there, and you became a tzafzafa, right? Which is a whole different species, not even a rava, which is symbolic of the simple Jew, not even that, right? Some kind of new species. We have to be careful not to separate ourselves from the Har Hashem, etc., etc. So that's the main thing, to keep learning, even if we do have to take a day off or whatever, we should try to keep very strong siddharim of learning. Even if you're at home, it doesn't mean you shouldn't learn. You should try to set aside a time. I remember when we bought the apartment we're in now, the Rav said, the main Chanukah Sabayis, not making like a kiddush and having everyone come over and eat food. He said the main thing is finding a place in your house that's where you learn. Making a place where you officially learn in the house. That way you know that the house is a house of learning. So everyone has to have a certain kavius in their learning, like Maim Rabim, not to become a tzafzafa, not to go away from the Har Hashem and have the problems of the second part of the parsha. But I think that the first part of the parsha also is a very big key to taking and getting siyata d'shmaya, because we know how easy it is to get bogged down in different problems that come up and this and that, and as I said, the heat of the moment and things that can take us away from not just the learning, but the kiyum of the Torah. One of the ways is to be zoicha, to have extra siyata d'shmaya, is to do a lot of chesed. And the Gemara says that the Torah starts with chesed and ends with chesed. It starts with chesed, that Hashem created Chava, and even he put together for Adam a way of appreciating Chava, that she's the best possible mate. And then he made them clothing, even when they were embarrassed due to their own problems that they ate from the Eitz Hadas. And then at the very end, he buries Moshe Rabbeinu. So two major acts of chesed, Malbish Arumim and Kavuras Hameis, plus marrying off really two Yisomim, people who didn't have parents. That's the beginning and the end of the Torah. If the beginning is chesed, the end is chesed, the whole thing is chesed. That's what the Gemara says. And that's why we read Megillas Rus on the day of Kabbalah Satorah, right? Why read that? Some say because it was also the Yortzeit of David HaMelech, but still, it has to be something that directly relates to the day. The day is a day of Kabbalah Satorah. Why? Because the Torah is completely full of chesed. And again, it's not just that we're asked to do chesed for the people around us. That's a major, major portion. But also to realize how much chesed Hashem does for us. very often we're in a situation where, should I really do this mitzvah? Should I really sit back and do something else? Or should I go learn? Should I not? And sometimes what can push us through is to realize how much Hashem has done for me. And all He's asked me to do is take this step and do this mitzvah, do this learning. And of course, a person could sit the whole day and just go over all the different chesed that Hashem has done with him, as we spoke of a few weeks ago. But I thought there were some interesting things in the Parsha that show you that how far Hashem's chesed goes. That Hashem doesn't just, it's like with Ruth and Naomi, that it's something that nobody would have really noticed at the time. Homeless woman, right? Today you have a lot of homeless people. Who notices the homeless? And here were two homeless people coming back from 10 years in Moab. And you have a woman who's lost her sons, you have a woman who's lost her husband and has had to leave her home, and they weren't heading for any great situation here, right? They had to go into the field to pick the after pickings, the slim pickings, as they say, of the mitzvahs, of the agricultural mitzvahs of leket and shikha and peah, etc. Not a lot to be gained over there. And even I think she said she gained six pieces of barley. That's what she gained that day. But we know that sometimes Hashem can make it satisfy you. It says in the days of the Beis HaMikdash, when there was after the time of Shimon HaTzadik, I think it was still occurring, this nace of lechem apanim, that they would get a small amount the size of a pea, and it would satisfy them. Can you imagine getting a piece of bread the size of a pea and it's satisfying you like a Shabbos meal satisfies you? It's a miracle, but it can happen. It was supposed to happen on Shemitah also. It says if you wouldn't have asked how are we going to get our food, you would have had the satisfaction from a small crop. But now that you asked, I'm going to give you a huge crop that will take you a long time to process, but at least you'll have enough food. But there's another way to have a smaller amount that's satisfying. So it could be those 6 grains of barley that she got was enough for her. But here we're talking about homeless people, poor people who we normally don't pay any attention to, and the whole story about these two women. And in the end, Boaz, who paid attention to her, and from their union came eventually David HaMelech and Mashiach. So we see the tremendous chesed that's built around that story from the beginning, when Naomi takes Ruth with her, and she, according to many versions, she helps her convert. She explains to her how difficult it is to be a Jew. We learn a lot of the halachas of gerus from there, and anyone who's ever helped a ger knows how difficult that is, how difficult it is to make them feel comfortable. Even a Baal Tshuva has at least grown up with many elements of Judaism, and in the end of the day, he is a Jew, so he's accepted as a Jew. But for a convert, it's very, very difficult. That itself is a tremendous chesed. And all the acts of chesed, which came all the way up until the Yibum. Yibum is probably the greatest form of chesed that's in the Torah. Because you're taking a person who didn't have any children and has no hemshich, has no continuation in this world. And according to Kabbalah, when the surviving relative, in our mitzvah, even it's the brother, but in them it was different, would have relations with the woman, he continued the neshama of the person who was nifter. And that's why it actually says in the Megillah, the Malbim points out that it actually uses the name as if she's giving birth to the man who was nifter. If you look in the Psukim, anyone who wants later, I can show you. So that's the greatest act of chesed, that someone who had no continuation in this world, and his neshama is very batzar, that he had no continuation in this world, should have another chance. You should do a chesed for them. And according to many, that was the Avera of Er and Onan, who didn't want to do that for their brother who had died in the time of Yehuda. That they let their seed spill on the ground because they didn't want it to be counted for their brother. They didn't want to do that chesed for their brother, for whatever reason. And that's considered a tremendously big Avera. And ironically, from that came out the union of Yehuda and Tamar, which produced eventually the people in Megillas Rus, actually. Shevet Yehuda and David and Mashiach. So the true acts of chesed are when you're taking something that's most dear to a person, his seed, and to have his own children, and you say to him, no, you're going to have a child, but it's not going to be your child at all. It's going to be your brother's child, and he's not even here anymore. You're just doing a complete act of chesed for your brother who's not even here anymore. Tremendous act of chesed. Yibum was a tremendous act of chesed, and especially when we consider the neshama, once the neshama leaves this world, it really has no ability to do anything to change its situation. So you're taking and you're doing something that completely elevates the neshama and gives it nachas ruach. So all of these acts of chesed are built into the Megillas Rus, and of course we didn't touch on all the things. It's good to go through the Megillah. I heard there was a group who learned it, Leil Shavuos, and it's something that should be continued to be learned as a source book for how to do chesed and pay attention to even the little details. But even in the Chumash, we see tremendous acts of chesed that Hashem is doing every moment, and if we realize that the same thing is happening in our lives, it makes us feel so much more closer to Hashem. And of course, as we said before, that could help me to learn Hashem's Torah more and more properly with the greater simcha, as wanting to understand the ratzon of our Father in heaven who's doing so much for us, but it's not always apparent. So we see in Baloscha, for example, the first Rashi in Baloscha says, why was the mitzvah of menorah suddenly put in over here, right? If you look in the previous parsha, they were just about to erect the Mishkan, and then all the Nasim brought their korbanos, right, to inaugurate the Mishkan, etc. And then afterwards also you have the whole thing about the Levi being inaugurated into being Levim, who would take care of the Mishkan. All of a sudden in the middle we have the mitzvah of lighting the menorah. What is that all about? So of course there's a lot of explanations. One of them Rashi says is Kishira Aaron Chanukas Anasim. When Aaron saw all these other princes of every shevet bringing their offerings, Chol Sha'az Daito, his mind weakened. He had a weakening of his mind, right? We would say he got a bit depressed. That's in modern terminology what we would say, right? Person sort of feels like, gosh, my neighbor has it, or someone else got this and I didn't get it. Like something inside happens. You kind of lose a little bit of your will to do the best that you can do. That's called chalishus hadas, right? We talk about that today as chalishus hadas. It's like your mind becomes weakened a bit, right? And that's not good. It's not good for a person to walk around with a bad attitude, right? With even feeling a little bit like I'm a little bit dafuk. They call that in modern Hebrew, right? No one should walk around feeling like they're dafuk, that there's something wrong with them, or maybe Hashem doesn't like them as much, or maybe something's wrong with their avodas Hashem, or right? Obviously, we have to always try to improve ourselves, but that should never give us a feeling of there's something wrong with us. And for some small level, Aaron felt that way. Chalshaz daito, shulohaya imahem. He felt bad that they all were involved in a mitzvah, and that is taka. Chazal say, if you see people doing a mitzvah, you should try to join them. Don't be left out. It's a very bad thing to be left out of a group of people doing a mitzvah. And he felt horrible, right? Lohu v'lo shivta, neither he nor even his shevet. At least if his shevet would have been involved, he would have felt better. Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem wanted to appease him, wanted to make him, sort of encourage him, soothe his feelings, soothe his raw nerves. Chayecha, by your life, that's the way of Hashem swearing. Shalcha gadola mishalahem, your portion is greater than theirs. Shatam madlik umeti b'zaneros. You are at the job of everyday lighting the hadlachas neros of the menorah, and that's what this mitzvah is doing here. This mitzvah is right away after we finish Kabbalah Torah. We read on this parsha. Not every year does it come out that way, but this year we're being shown a tremendous chesed, and this is what we're being encouraged to take away from Shavuos, to act with chesed and to realize, more importantly, Hashem's chesed. How many times does Hashem reach down from Shamayim and pat us on the shoulder and try to encourage us, right? We wake up, we say, oh, today another day, or this or that. Or in the middle of the day you hear some news and it makes you feel bad. Hashem is going to reach down and pat you on the shoulder and say, it's okay, It's okay. Your portion is greater than theirs, right? You see someone getting something, they married off their kids, and you have a kid to marry off, or something that seems to you out of place. And Hashem reaches down from Shemayim, as it were. And he's Mekimi Me'afar Dal, right? He reaches down into the dirt, and he lifts up someone who feels like they've fallen into the dirt. Shalcha Gadol Mishalahem. Yours is even greater than this. Sometimes you don't even realize how great our portion is. How lucky we are that sometimes we're so much luckier than the person we're jealous of. How ironic, but Hashem will want to show us that. He'll give us a little bit of encouragement. Like it says, a bas kol goes out every day from Har Sinai and says, woe unto them that don't learn Torah. The Bali Musar say, what good is the bas kol? We don't hear it. So what does it have to go out every day from Har Sinai? Did you hear the bas kol? Have you ever heard it? So the Meforshim say that it's a small feeling in your heart that, oh, I wish I could learn a little bit more. That's that same bas kol. Bas kol is an echo. A bas kol means it's an echo. It's like something, like, they hear echoes in the heart, and if you know how to listen. So there's something inside of us that stirs. Maybe it's just once a day. I sort of feel like, I wish I could learn a little bit more. I wish I knew my halachas a little bit better. Some kind of feeling like I really want to be better. That's coming from that bas kol that's coming out from Har Sinai. And here also, there's like a hand reaching down, not just to Aaron and his situation, but this is a sign that every time Hashem is trying to show us the same thing. And what does he say? Ba'alosechaz haneros. Your job is to raise up the neros. There's different pshatim, but one pshat, Rashi says you have to keep your candle there to light the menorah till it goes by itself. And the Bali Musar say that's a simon of how to do chinuch, right? That's why Chanukah is the word chinuch. Because chinuch is also, that's why all of the Rebbeim here try so hard to help the student till he can do it himself. It says each flame, you have to try to keep your candle next to the flame till it goes up by itself. That means I have to try to teach you so well that you could now say that word yourself. You could say that pasuk yourself. You could say over that Torah thought yourself. That's the real job of chinuch. And that's what he's telling him. You have a job to do for teaching Klal Yisrael, and the menorah is like a symbol of that. And it goes on and on. You have the mitzvah Pesach Sheni. People came to Kadosh Baruch Hu, came to Moshe Rabbeinu, and said, we feel bad that we can't do the Korban Pesach. We are Tameh or whatever. Kadosh Baruch Hu creates a new mitzvah called Pesach Sheni, a new chance, a second chance. Again, people were yearning to grow, and Hashem stepped in, as it were. Of course, in Rashi it's mashma that he was always going to give that mitzvah, but he was waiting to give it through people who had the schus to want that mitzvah, as if they would ask for a new chance and Hashem would give them one. And we understand how bad a person must have felt if everyone's offering their Korban Pesach and they're not involved, they're not able to do it. Right? In a sense, we're all in that position today. Nobody that I know offered a Korban Pesach this year. But when everyone was doing it, how harsh it must have felt, kind of like Aaron feeling left out, that he couldn't get involved. And Hashem reached down and gave him and showed him how his portion was even greater. Here we say, really there was already Pesach, but I'm going to create a Pesach Sheni, a whole new day that has nothing really to do with anything on the calendar, but I'm giving you another chance. In 30 days, right, try to prepare yourself for a second chance. It's a tremendous lesson. How many times do we feel left out and Hashem says, it's okay, I'll give you another chance. Think of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva, who was the age of 40 and didn't know how to read Aleph Beis, and he was a shepherd who was considered an Amma Aretz, and he himself said that he wasn't just an Amma Aretz, like passively speaking, he was an active Amma Aretz, right? What is an active Amma Aretz? That means he truly hated Talmidei Chachamim. The Gemara in Pesachim says he hated Talmidei Chachamim so much that he would want to bite them. and not just, the Gemara says, not just a regular bite, but the bite of a donkey. Why? The Gemara says, I think Rashi explains that when a donkey bites, it bites really harsh, strong bite that could break a bone. That bad, right? So I've been bitten by a dog. It didn't break my bone, Baruch Hashem. It was hard, it was terrifying and everything, but it didn't break the bone. If a donkey bites, it breaks the bone. Rabbi Akiva said, I hated Talmidei Chachamim so much that I would have bitten them. And the Gemara actually says one of the reasons why because Amma Aretz doesn't know why Talmidei Chachamim do things, right? That's a very important thing to remember, that sometimes we do things and the people around us don't understand it, they misinterpret. They think, let's say I washed Netilas Yadayim, and then they say something to me and I don't answer. I go, right? Or I'm in the middle of a bracha, right? Happens to me all the time, and someone in my house says something and I can't answer them. They probably think I don't like them. They probably think I'm ignoring them, right? Or maybe I'm angry at them. They misinterpret it. So it's very important to go over to the person later and tell them the real pshat. I'm sorry I was in the middle of a bracha. Of course I would have wanted to say hello and how are you and how's things going. They didn't do it in those days. So Rabbi Akiva misinterpreted not only their social non-interaction, but there was also halachas in those days of Tuma and Tara, that the Talmidei Chachamim had a custom of actually crossing to the other side of a road when the Amma Aretz was coming, so that they wouldn't have any contact with the Amma Aretz who wasn't careful with Tuma and Tara, and one could easily become Tameh. But again, he misinterpreted that. You see someone, you're just about to say hi, and then he crosses to the other side of the street, right? Every time those frum guys come, they always cross to the other side of the street. I hate them, right? Because the Gemara says, Pasuk of Mishlei, Kamayim apanim al apanim. When we see someone feeling a certain way towards us, we automatically reflect, why did Rabbi Akiva want to bite them like a donkey? Because he felt that they hated him, right? And that's why it's very important not to allow anyone to feel that you don't like them, because it could bounce back a very, very harsh reaction. But yet the same Rabbi Akiva, when he was given a situation like Aaron, who was feeling left out, and like the people of Pesach Sheni who felt left out, Hashem gave him a second chance, right? All he needed was a little push, right? Rachel had to say, I wish you would be a Talmid Chacham. If you would be a Talmid Chacham, I would want to marry you. And someone who had never learned, he could still think of going, he didn't know. He went in the woods, he had the inspiration, he saw the water, the story, we all know the story. But the Gemara says he basically got a second chance, and he became one of the greatest rabbis who ever lived. Moshe Rabbeinu even listened to one of his drushes and didn't quite understand it, right? Till he heard him saying, that's Allah Moshe Misinai. For some reason that made Moshe feel better, right? But the point being that he was given a second chance. He was given a chance, and he used the chance and became one of the greatest rabbis who ever lived. He perhaps became the greatest rabbi who ever lived. And that's a symbol to us of Hashem's chesed, that he constantly looks down on us, he constantly cares about our emotions, he wants to encourage us to always be the best, and to have a good attitude, not to be depressed, not to fall into depression, chas v'sholom. It's one of the worst things that can happen to a person, it cripples a person, it makes him not want to do the normal things that people do. And Hashem is constantly trying to bring us out of that. And we see it in this week's parsha. In many cases, I didn't even have a chance to speak about all of them. But this feeling of Hashem being with us, this Megillas Rus, full of chesed, and Hashem taking the lowly people and raising them up to the highest of levels, and coming, you can imagine from Rus, the Moabiyah, coming Mashiach eventually. And that she really came from the king of Moab, who just took a few steps, L'kavod Hashem. All these people showed signs of wanting to get closer to Hashem, and Hashem cared about them. That's the greatest chesed, is that Hashem does. It gives us the opportunity, no matter where we are in life, to have a second chance to pick up our spirits and to realize that we can have a portion that's even greater than those around us. And Mirz Hashem, we should have a good summer, a good carrying of the Torah which we received, to make the touchdown of completing the Torah, completing our mitzvahs properly, and eventually bring Mashiach and attaining the greatest Olam Haba that we possibly can.